The Sinaloa Cartel, one of the most notorious criminal organizations in modern history. Known worldwide for drug trafficking, money laundering, and ruthless violence, it's easy to see them as just criminals. But to understand how they operate and why they've endured for decades, we have to look at the psychology behind their power. What drives these men and women to build an empire fueled by fear, loyalty, and ambition? At the heart of the Sinaloa Cartel's operation is a profound understanding of human behavior, even if it's applied in extreme and criminal ways. Leaders like Joaquin El Chapo Guzman don't rely on brute force alone. They study people, predict reactions, and manipulate behavior to maintain dominance. Their power stems from two intertwined psychological strategies: control and influence. Control is enforced through a carefully balanced system of rewards and punishments. Loyalty and obedience are rewarded with money, status, and protection, while defiance or failure can result in immediate and brutal consequences. This is a stark example of operant conditioning in action, where behavior is shaped by consequences. Within this system, fear becomes both a motivator and a behavioral regulator, compelling members to act in predictable ways that maintain the organization's hierarchy. Influence operates more subtly, often through the manipulation of social dynamics and human needs. Cartel leaders exploit family ties, friendships, and ambitions, making members feel part of an elite, almost familial group. This taps into core social psychology principles. Humans crave belonging and recognition. The cartel leverages this need, creating a culture where loyalty is identity, and leaving the organization feels like losing oneself. By controlling not only actions but also perceptions, the leaders craft an environment where obedience is internalized rather than forced, making the system self-reinforcing. Over time, these psychological mechanisms create a network of individuals whose behavior aligns almost instinctively with the goals of the cartel, demonstrating that the organization's strength lies as much in understanding the human mind as in controlling territory. Fear isn't just a tool for the Sinaloa Cartel, it's a calculated force that shapes every decision their members make. The organization doesn't rely on random acts of violence. It creates a controlled environment where threats are predictable and consequences are immediate. This constant exposure to danger induces a state of chronic stress, which psychologists note can heighten vigilance, reduce independent thinking, and make individuals more compliant. Members learn to weigh every decision carefully, practicing what behavioral psychologists call calculated risk-taking. Every operation, from transporting drugs to negotiating deals, is mentally measured against the potential reward and the lethal consequences of failure. In this way, fear becomes not only a deterrent, but also a guiding framework for decision-making, keeping the cartel functioning like a highly disciplined but brutal organization. But fear alone isn't enough. The cartel balances it with selective rewards to reinforce the behavior they want. Members who succeed gain wealth, status, and protection, powerful psychological motivators that reinforce loyalty and obedience. This combination of fear and reward mirrors a system of behavioral conditioning on a massive scale, shaping members' instincts and ensuring the cartel's rules are followed without constant oversight. It also creates a paradoxical environment. Danger is everywhere, but so is the opportunity for advancement. Those who navigate it successfully feel both empowered and trapped, a psychological state that strengthens the internal hierarchy and ensures the survival of the cartel's power structure. The Sinaloa Cartel's psychological strength doesn't just come from fear or rewards, it comes from identity. Social identity theory tells us that people define themselves by the groups they belong to, and within the cartel, this principle is pushed to its limits. Members are constantly reminded that they are part of an exclusive, powerful family, and outsiders are painted as enemies. This creates an us versus them mentality, where loyalty to the group becomes more than obligation. It becomes a core part of self-definition. Betraying the organization isn't just dangerous, it's psychologically unthinkable because it threatens the very identity members have been trained to adopt. In this way, the cartel ensures cohesion not only through enforcement, but through internalized belief, making the organization psychologically self-sustaining. Inside the cartel, moral boundaries are redefined to fit survival and success. Violence, deception, and manipulation, actions that would horrify outsiders, become normalized behaviors within the group. Psychologists call this moral disengagement, an adaptive mechanism where ethical standards are reshaped to align with the group's needs. Loyalty is reinforced not only through rules and punishment, but through rituals, symbols, and shared experiences that bond members together. Over time, individuals come to see themselves as part of a system bigger than themselves, where obedience is instinctive and betrayal is inconceivable. The result is a network of individuals whose identity, perception, and moral compass are all finely tuned to serve the survival and dominance of the cartel. The leaders of the Sinaloa Cartel, like Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, are fascinating from a psychological perspective. They combine traits often associated with high-stakes leadership in extreme environments: strategic intelligence, risk tolerance, and a willingness to manipulate both people and perception. Psychologists might describe these traits as a blend of narcissism and Machiavellianism, an ability to focus on personal and organizational gain while remaining emotionally detached from moral constraints. But it's not sheer ruthlessness that makes them effective, it's adaptability. Leaders constantly read both internal dynamics and external threats, making decisions that balance immediate survival with long-term dominance. Every alliance, betrayal, or negotiation is a calculated act, informed by an understanding of human behavior and social influence. Social intelligence is just as critical as strategic cunning. Cartel leaders understand how to manipulate loyalty, fear, and respect to control both subordinates and rivals. They craft myths about themselves, creating larger-than-life reputations that extend their influence beyond immediate interactions. This psychological projection, making others believe in their omnipotence, amplifies power without physical action. In effect, their leadership is a form of psychological warfare, controlling perception as much as territory. It's this combination of intelligence, adaptability, and social manipulation that allows cartel leaders to survive betrayals, evade law enforcement, and maintain control over one of the most complex criminal organizations in the world. Studying the psychology of the Sinaloa Cartel doesn't glorify crime. It reveals how human behavior operates under extreme conditions. The cartel's survival isn't just a matter of violence or luck. It's a system built on understanding and manipulating people's needs, fears, and motivations. Leaders harness fear to shape behavior, use rewards to reinforce loyalty, and craft identities that bind members to the group. This demonstrates how power can be maintained through psychology as much as through force. Observing their methods can teach broader lessons about leadership, social influence, and human decision-making, even in environments far removed from organized crime. At its core, the Sinaloa Cartel illustrates the dual power of fear and belonging. People act predictably when their safety, identity, and social bonds are at stake, and extreme organizations exploit these tendencies systematically. While the cartel uses this knowledge destructively, the underlying psychology is universal. Humans are shaped by incentives, consequences, and the need for community. Understanding this helps us see how structures, legal, social, or organizational, can influence behavior for better or worse. The Sinaloa Cartel, in all its brutality, is a stark reminder of the power of human psychology and the consequences when it is applied without ethical boundaries.